What is up, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to a video I'm gonna try to make into a series called Grinding Gears, and this series is about things in the motorcycle industry, in the motorcycle world, in the motorcycle community that grind my gears. And the subject for today's video that I want to discuss is the brand new BMW R1300 GS. Yes, the long-awaited brand new GS is finally revealed. We'll finally be able to buy the new 1300 GS. When I say we will finally be able to buy it, what I mean is people who have 30,000 euros will be able to buy it, because it's not a cheap bike. But I'm not going to discuss the price, okay? The GS has never been a cheap bike, no matter what anybody tells you. Even my 1996 1100 GS was the top of the line, top of the range motorcycle. So people complaining about the price, I don't mind those people. Everybody will complain about the price of an expensive motorcycle. No, I've been watching the forums, watching the comment sections on various posts about the new 1300 GS, and I've seen a couple of comments being repeated over and over again. And I mean negative comments, people complaining about the new GS, about stuff on the new GS. First of all, the headlight. The headlight is extremely polarizing. You either hate it or love it. Everybody on the internet seems to hate it. Well, I got some news for everybody on the internet. Every time a new GS came out, everybody complained about the headlight. The first two GSs, the R80 and the R100 GS, the classic GSs, those had a round headlight like every single motorcycle. Not a problem, nobody complained about that. They complained about something else on that motorcycle, but nobody complained about the headlight on the R80 and the R100. But as soon as BMW came out with this version, which is the first of the modern GSs with the telelever front suspension, everybody complained about the headlight, the big bus headlight. And yes, it's a headlight taken from a bus, but it does its job very well, and I see no problem with it, and I think it fits the design of the motorcycle. But everybody complained about the light. Then when the 1150 GS came out with its wonky two headlights, everybody complained about that one. And when the 1200 came out, everybody complained about that one. Again with the 1250. You see, it's a bit of a pattern here. So that's not something that truly grinds my gears. It does a little bit, but let's just say I'm used to people complaining about the headlight of the GS. They will continue to complain about it, and once the bike is out for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, everybody will love the headlight, and they will say it's the best thing since sliced bread. That's what usually happens with all GS. The main issue I have with people commenting on the internet about the GS is all the people saying that the GS has gone soft. All the people saying it's no longer an off-road motorcycle. It's no longer good for around the world trips because it has way too much electronics, way too much technology. I'm sorry. Since when was the GS a proper off-road motorcycle? Now, I know it's an adventure bike, and even in the name it says Gelände Straße, which should translate in street and terrain, or road and off-road, something like that. But the GS has never been a quote-unquote off-road motorcycle, because an off-road motorcycle is just that, off-road. A gravel road, a fire road, a mountain road. That's not off-road, that's unpaved road. That's road without pavement. That's not off-road. The GS has always been an adventure bike. It's an on-road motorcycle, on tarmac and off tarmac, but on road. It's not a bike you take down a single track because it's way too big and way too heavy. People are saying it's way too full of electronics. Well, I'm sorry. 99% of the time you ride the GS, you're either on paved roads or on the highway. That's the beauty of the GS. That's why so many people love the GS. Because you can think of a gravel road somewhere up in the mountains, a fire road that's 500 kilometers away from you. So you get on your bike, you ride 500 kilometers of highway in perfect comfort, and on a bike that's perfectly comfortable to sit on the highway at 120, 130 kilometers an hour all day long and not beat you up. That's the main thing. The bike doesn't beat you up when you're doing a lot of highway miles. And then get to your fire road, your gravel road, have a bit of fun on it, and then ride another 500 kilometers back. This is a bike you can easily do 800, 900, 1,000 kilometers in a day on the highway, and the thing doesn't beat you up. Whereas quote-unquote off-road motorcycles, enduro motorcycles, you can't do that. They vibrate, they buzz, they are extremely loud at high speed. The seats are tremendously uncomfortable after 2 or 3 hours because those bikes weren't made for touring. The GS is like an SUV. It's basically like the SUV of the car world. Sure, it has a bit of ground clearance and four-wheel drive, but you're not gonna take it across the Sahara. So when I heard BMW put the active cruise control on it that keeps a safe distance from the car in front no matter what speed you set the cruise control at, I was extremely happy because you do a lot of highway miles on a GS, and that is a beautiful thing to have. You put your cruise control at 130 kilometers an hour, and if a car in front of you is going 110 or 120, the bike will automatically go at 110, 120. Once the road is clear, it will automatically speed up to the speed you set it at. Also, you have an option on the GS to have a full set of luggage, panniers and top box that have central locking. A beautiful thing for a touring motorcycle to have luggage with central locking. Goldwings have had it for a long time. It was about time the GS got it, because again, the GS is a gravel road capable touring motorcycle. That's what the GS is. So people left and right complaining that the GS has gone soft, the GS is no longer an adventure bike, it's a touring bike. Well, yes, because adventure is actually adventure touring. That's what adventure touring means. Adventure touring means you do 99% of tarmac road, and then you do about 1%, 2% of a gravel road, a fire road, something light. You don't do extreme off-road. And for that, the GS is a perfect recipe. It has a 19-inch front wheel. It makes it a little bit better on-road and in the twisties. Sure, it hinders off-road performance, but for a gravel road, 19-inch front wheel is perfectly fine. You have central locking luggage now. A beautiful thing when you stop to take some pictures, admire the scenery. You don't have to fumble about with keys. Different style of keys, one for your side bags, one for your top case. You have central locking. You leave the bike, everything locks. The bike locks, the luggage locks, everything locks. Because you're gonna do a lot of miles on a GS, you're gonna cover a lot of ground. You're not gonna be stopping in the middle of the woods where nobody is gonna steal anything off your bike. No, you're gonna be stopping in cities, you're gonna stopping on the highway for fuel, for something to eat. And it's nice to know that your bags are always locked. You don't have to think about it. And I don't understand what people are complaining about. The GS is lighter than it has ever been before. It's around 230 kilograms for the regular GS. I'm sorry, this bike, dry, is about 240 kilograms. So that thing has almost double the power of this one, and somehow it's 10 kilograms lighter. It's more fuel efficient, it's better handling, it has better brakes, it has better electronics. This thing only has ABS, which is currently not working. That thing has ABS, traction control, wheelie control, 6-axis YMU. What more can you ask for? And is it expensive? Yes. But the GS has always been expensive because BMW throws everything at every generation of the GS. They don't skimp on anything. So for me, even though the internet is extremely mad, a lot of people are mad at BMW for making the GS too luxurious, too soft, too off-road, like too much electronic. I don't mind that. I want to see that. If I want to do true adventure off-road trail riding, I'm gonna get a Honda CRF 300. But if I want to go from here, Romania, to North Cap, which is 4,500 kilometers away, or 4,500 kilometers away, whichever way you want to swing it, I'm not gonna take a CRF 300 because I'm gonna do most of the road, most of the way there on highways or on tarmac roads. If I want to take, I don't know, a gravel road through Finland, this bike is perfectly capable of doing a gravel road. That's no issue. But when I have to do 1,000 kilometers in a day on the highway, I want something that's comfortable. I want something that I can easily cruise for 2 or 3 hours for 400 kilometers before I have to stop to refuel again. I don't want to have to stop every 100 kilometers because I have an aching back, because my head hurts, because I'm too hot from the engine. And the GS has always been about that. It's never been a quote-unquote off-road motorcycle. It's never been an enduro bike. That's why it has the Boxer engine. The Boxer engine is not a good engine for off-road. Sure, it has a low center of gravity, but when you drop the bike, you drop it on its cylinder heads. And even with crash bars, a well-placed rock will break the cylinder head cover, and you're gonna lose your engine oil and you're gonna be stranded. This is not a hardcore enduro motorcycle, and it's never been a hardcore enduro motorcycle. Even the first R1300 GS, people complained about it, that it was a dirt bike that was not perfect for off-road. And yes, it's not perfect for off-road, but what the Boxer engine is, it's smooth. And smoothness gives you relaxation and comfort on the highway. You can run it at high speed and it doesn't buzz, it doesn't vibrate. It has a ton of torque and it's perfectly smooth. That's why the GS uses a Boxer engine. The kids wanting revs, always give the kids revs. That's why the GS uses a Boxer engine. It's a compromised engine layout for a motorcycle, either off-road motorcycle or sport bike. But for touring, it's a wonderful engine layout. If you ride in the summer, it takes the wind off your legs, and if you ride in the winter, a small breeze of warm air comes from the cylinders on your legs and warms up your legs. It's a beautiful combination for a touring bike, and that's what the GS is. It's a touring bike with just a hint of gravel road capabilities. Sure, you see people doing extreme things with the GS, like jumping over logs, jumping over rocks, doing single track. You see a lot of promotional material of people drifting the GS. Let me tell you something, I've been riding this thing for about 8,000 kilometers. Yes, it can do that, but the level of skill required for you to be able to do that, it's extremely high, and only 0.1% of riders actually have that skill level. And if you ride only GS's, you are never gonna get at that skill level, because the bike is too heavy. You cannot learn proper off-road on it. You need a small bike to learn all the techniques and then try to adapt them and apply them to this 300 kilogram beast. But then again, 99.9% of people that ride GS's won't need that level of capability when riding the bike, because they're not gonna do single track. So everyone mad about the GS being too weak, too sterile. Stop it. The GS is exactly what it wants to be. It's exactly what the engineers made it to be. An adventure touring bike. Emphasis on the touring side of it. That's why you see second-hand GSs with over 100,000 kilometers on the clock. People ride these things, they ride the wheels off them because they are reliable. It's a reliable platform. It's always been a reliable platform. It has shaft drive, which is very low maintenance. It is perfectly set up. This and its sister, the RT, they are perfectly set up for long distance motorcycle touring. Why would you get this as opposed to an RT? Well, if you want to do gravel roads, but even an RT is capable of doing gravel roads. But maybe you want to know that it's a softer suspension, it's a plusher ride, and I have to agree, I really love the suspension on the GS. It's decent off-road, but you can feel the bike is heavy. But on country roads like these, side roads like I'm currently on, you're gonna find roads which don't have perfect tarmac. They are bumpy, they are pimpled, they have potholes, and the suspension of the GS is more than capable of coping with such a terrain. You can maintain speeds of 80, 90, 100 kilometers an hour on a rough road and still be in perfect comfort. That's why you need something like a GS for touring. If you're gonna do only highway, then get an RT. But if you plan on doing some side roads, some back roads, some gravel roads, get a GS. It's enough off-road capability, even the modern one. You can either go for the spoked wheels or the cast wheel. It really doesn't matter. You're not gonna push it. The spoked wheels do indeed look cooler. They really do look cooler. And if I was getting one, I would be waiting for the big GS Adventure because of the 30-liter fuel tank, or I don't know how big the fuel tank is gonna be, but it's probably gonna be around 30 liters. And the spoked wheels, because it just looks the business, and the big 30-liter fuel tank gives you the range that a bike like this needs. This is a bike you take very, very long distance. And when people say that this is a bike that Charlie Boorman and Ewan McGregor took around the world and then took from the top of Scotland down to the bottom of Africa, yes, they did, but a lot of that distance was on tarmac, and that's why they needed a GS. And a lot of that distance was on tarmac like this, very rough tarmac. You probably can't tell, but this is an extremely bumpy road, and I am maintaining 100 kilometers an hour with no issue, because the suspension is more than capable of coping with a road like this. And that's the fun part about having a GS, because you can tour, you can ride long distance, and if you hit a road like this, it's no problem. You can still maintain speed and you can still cover ground quickly. That's why you need the GS, not to go to the top of a mountain. You're never supposed to take it to the top of the mountain, but you can do stuff like this, ride on roads like this, because it's very at home doing this. So everyone on the internet complaining about the new GS, stop it. It's a wonderful machine. The engineers have done exactly what they should do to it to make it even better, to make it a leap forward for the GS lineup. It maintains all of its heritage, and it's probably gonna be a bestseller. Hopefully I can get to ride it as soon as possible. I am trying to look for a test ride or something, but I'm 100% sure that it's gonna be a great and awesome motorcycle, fit for what it's supposed to do. Not for off-road riding, but for adventure touring. Well, hopefully you enjoy this little rant, and thank you for joining me on a little bit of a weekend ride, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Remember, until next time, take care out there everyone, and ride safe. Bye.